At Thanksgiving, I mentioned I'd purchased a $2.5 million Tribeca condo. My brother slammed his fork, my dad spilled his wine, and my mom started crying. Later, they asked me to give him a job. You know that feeling when your family Thanksgiving turns into a horror movie? Mine did. And it all exploded right there over the cranberry sauce, because my brother just couldn't handle the truth of my success. That Austin Airbnb smelled like rosemary and something acrid, maybe burned ambition, the moment I walked through the door. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed downtown like a postcard nobody asked for, all glass towers and November sunset bleeding orange across the Colorado River. My mother, God bless her, had already draped the dining table in cream linens she'd hauled from home. She never trusted rental silverware, you know? Meanwhile, my brother, Kalin, was trying to connect his laptop to the giant TV above the limestone fireplace. His hands were actually shaking. 30 years old, still fumbling with an HDMI cable like it was a live wire. Almost ready, he mumbled, mostly to himself. I slipped into my seat between Piper, my wonderfully sane cousin, and some second cousin whose name had already evaporated from my memory. My dad, Warren, was pouring wine with the careful, almost reverent attention of a man investing in his son's future. My mom, Blythe, hovered near Kalin, straightening his collar. It was ridiculous. We were family. None of this needed to be a performance. Except with Kalin, it always did. Then it flashed onto the screen, the first PowerPoint slide. AI Art Gallery. Revolutionizing creative spaces. And I swear to God, the font was Comic Sans. I pressed my lips together so hard they almost disappeared and just stared at my water glass. So, Kalin began, his voice cracking just a little. I've been working on this concept for 8 months now. 8 months. 8 months he spent on this? That's the same amount of time I just spent closing the Riverside Plaza deal that netted my firm a cool $4 million in management fees. He clicked to the next slide. It was a blurry screenshot of, well, it could have been AI-generated paintings or, honestly, just abstract smears he found on Google Images. The intersection of technology and human creativity, he read directly from the slide, utterly devoid of inflection, represents an untapped market opportunity. My dad nodded like Kalin had just quoted scripture. My mom actually pulled out a tiny pad from her purse and started taking notes. I just cut into my turkey. It was dry. Initial investment needed, Kalin droned on, hitting a slide that was just numbers in different colored fonts. $100,000. This covers gallery space lease, initial AI software licensing, and operational costs for the first 6 months. Piper shifted beside me. She's my mother's sister's daughter, and the only person at that table who had ever asked me a direct question about my actual life. Sounds ambitious, my dad said, and I could practically see him mentally liquidating something, probably the mutual fund he always swore was for his retirement. Kalin then launched into projected revenue streams that relied entirely on words like synergy and disruption. I started counting. He said basically 17 times. When he finally stopped talking, my mom dabbed at her eyes. It's wonderful, sweetheart. So innovative. Sienna. Piper's voice cut through the congratulations that were already bubbling up around the table. Are you still in Chicago? I heard you got a huge promotion. The table went dead silent. Even the forgotten second cousin looked up from his phone. I set down my fork, deliberately, carefully. Actually, I said, my voice calm, I'm relocating to New York. Tribeca. I closed on a place last week. Oh, that's exciting, Piper said, genuinely happy. Renting? No. I met her eyes. I bought it. She smiled, warm and real. That's amazing. What a great investment. $2.5 million. The words came out steady, factual. Cash. Hudson River view. Oh. My dad's wine glass slipped from his fingers. The sound of crystal shattering against Italian marble was surprisingly loud, a sharp, sudden crack in the suffocating silence. Red wine spread across the cream tablecloth like a wound, dripping onto the floor in thick, heavy drops that sounded, to my ears, exactly like a clock counting down. Nobody moved. Kalin's face transformed right before my eyes, going from pale to a deep, ugly purple in a heartbeat. His fork slammed down, echoing the wine glass. $2.5 million? In Tribeca? Jesus Christ, Sienna. Who did you have to sleep with for that? The words just hung there, ugly and impossible to take back. My mom recovered first. Kalin. Honey, you're just stressed about your presentation. She reached for his arm, but he jerked away. My dad was staring at me now like I'd just confessed to murder. Sienna, he said, his voice laced with disbelief. How could you not tell us about this? The sheer absurdity of the question nearly made me laugh. Tell them? As if I owed them a detailed financial report. As if my success required their permission. Kalin stood so fast his chair scraped across the floor, a horrible screech. This is typical. This is so typical. You always have to one-up me. Always. I watched the wine drip onto the floor. Steady. Rhythmic. My own heartbeat felt the same way, distant and mechanical. Somewhere in my memory, I was 18 again. Kalin's birthday party at that downtown Chicago lounge, 200 of his closest friends, an open bar that cost my dad $10,000. My birthday dinner, 3 weeks later, was at Olive Garden. Just the four of us. And my mom spent most of it on her phone, coordinating Kalin's summer trip to Barcelona. He got a navy blue BMW 3 Series, leather interior, his name on the registration. I got a refurbished Dell laptop. $300. My dad handed it to me across the breadsticks and said, "You're so practical, Sienna. You don't need the flash." Strong, my mom called me. Over and over, my entire childhood. Sienna's the strong one. She handles everything. What they really meant was, Sienna doesn't complain. Sienna doesn't need. Sienna makes it easy for us to forget her. I picked up my napkin and folded it with careful, deliberate precision. When I spoke, my voice didn't shake. I earned every penny. Through 80-hour work weeks and deals that actually closed. I looked at my dad, then my mom, then finally Kalin. You got a BMW at 18. I got a $300 laptop. You got $8,000 wired to Barcelona for a semester emergency that was actually bottle service. You got startup funding for 3 different failed businesses. You're just a robot. Kalin spat, his face contorted in rage. You push numbers around. You don't create anything. You don't contribute anything meaningful to the world. My dad held up his hand. Sienna, that's enough. Apologize to your brother. The room tilted slightly. Or maybe that was just me, finally seeing clearly. Piper was absolutely still beside me. The forgotten cousin had his phone out, probably recording. My mom was crying, mascara tracking down her cheeks in careful, dark lines. And my dad, my own father, was looking at me like I was the problem, like I was the one who had shattered something precious. The wine was still dripping. Each drop sounded louder than the last. My new apartment in Tribeca smelled like recycled air and expensive failure. I sat cross-legged on the king bed, laptop balanced on a pillow, still wearing yesterday's clothes because unpacking felt like admitting I'd be here longer than planned. My phone buzzed. Piper's name. I had no idea it was this bad. I stared at the text for a full minute before forcing myself back to work. The cursor blinked in my spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, amount. Column C, recipient. Column D, purpose alleged. The bank statements I'd requested 3 days ago were PDF files now, lined up in my downloads folder like evidence at a crime scene. I'd been avoiding them. Knowing something happened and seeing the precise dollar amount are 2 different species of pain. I opened the first file. May 2015. A wire transfer for $8,000 to Kalin Edwards. Memo line, Barcelona emergency. There was no emergency. He posted Instagram photos from that trip for 6 months straight. Rooftop bars, Paya, a blonde girl whose name he never mentioned. The emergency was running out of money for bottle service. I copied the amount into my spreadsheet. The number sat there. Neat. Accusatory. June 2015. Another transfer. $3,000. Memo. Startup costs. Which startup? The organic juice bar that closed in 4 months? The app that never launched? The vintage clothing store that got evicted for unpaid rent? I just kept scrolling. The transfers blurred together. A parade of four-figure failures. September 2016, $5,200. January 2017, $6,800. March 2017, $4,100. My 18th birthday gift had been a refurbished Dell, and now my chest felt hollow. I created a new tab. Labeled it Comparative Analysis because corporate language makes horrible things manageable. Age 18, Kalin receives $32,000, car down payment, insurance, first semester. Sienna receives $300, laptop. Age 21, Kalin receives $15,000, DUI lawyer, court fees, car replacement, after he totaled the BMW. Sienna receives $0, paid own rent, own tuition, own existence. Age 25, Kalin receives $28,000, first startup attempt. Sienna receives a phone call asking why she doesn't visit more often. The cursor hovered over a transfer from December 2018. $12,000. Memo, holiday assistance. I remembered that Christmas. I flew home from Chicago, arrived with gifts I'd spent 2 weeks' salary on. Kalin showed up empty-handed, 3 hours late, wearing a Canada Goose jacket that cost more than my monthly rent. Just something I picked up, he'd said when Mom commented on it. $12,000. That's what he picked up. My phone rang. I considered ignoring it, but Blythe's name filled the screen and muscle memory made me answer. Sienna. Her voice cracked immediately, tears already in progress. How could you do this to us? I didn't respond. The spreadsheet was up to $187,000 now, and I was only through 2019. You've destroyed family unity. Your father can't sleep. Kalin is devastated. Kalin called me a whore at Thanksgiving dinner yesterday. He was stressed about his presentation. You know how sensitive he is. The tears shifted into something sharper. Your success makes him feel worthless. I clicked to another bank statement. March 2020. $8,000. Memo, pandemic relief. That's not my responsibility, I said, my voice flat. You're his sister. My mom's voice rose, shrill now. Family takes care of each other. Family. The word tasted like something spoiled. When's the last time anyone asked how I was doing? Silence. Then, a hesitant, you're always fine. You're the strong one. Right, I said, adding another line to the spreadsheet. April 2020, $6,500. May 2020, $4,200. I'm fine, which is why you favor him over your daughter. Favoring? That's not true. You're making things up. I also have bank statements. We have always invested in his potential. That's different. You cashed out your retirement fund for his Barcelona semester. Her breathing changed. Got careful. Who told you that? Dad's 401k withdrawal form was in the file cabinet. I saw it when I was home for Christmas 2016. I'd found it by accident, looking for my birth certificate. The amount had seemed shocking then. Now it just seemed like part of the pattern. You had no right to go through our papers. You had no right to call me selfish for succeeding. My mom made it sound like something breaking. If you don't apologize to your brother, we're not coming to your housewarming. The threat landed all wrong. She thought it was leverage. I heard freedom. Okay, I said. Okay, that's all you have to say. Don't come then. I hung up before she could respond. My hands weren't shaking. That felt significant somehow. The spreadsheet was complete now. $437,000, transferred over 10 years. The number sat at the bottom of column B, highlighted in red by Excel's helpful auto-formatting. My phone buzzed again. Not my mom this time. My dad. I let it go to voicemail. When the notification appeared, I played it on speaker. Sienna, this is your father. His voice was formal, like he was leaving a message for a business associate. Your mother is very upset. Kalin is talking about seeing a therapist because of your behavior. We think you should apologize and offer him a position at your firm. He needs structure. You have the resources to help him. The message ended. I saved it to a folder labeled documentation. Then I searched my email. The keyword was simple, Kalin, Sienna. The results loaded. 43 threads. I started with the oldest. From Warren Edwards. Subject: Graduation gift. Date: May 2014. Body: Sienna doesn't need a party. She's not the celebrating type. Let's put that money toward Kalin's Europe trip instead. I graduated summa cum laude. Kalin had graduated 3 years later with a 2.1 GPA and a general studies degree that meant he'd changed majors 5 times. I kept reading. Email after email, a decade of casual dismissal. My achievements mentioned in single sentences. Kalin's failures discussed in paragraphs of sympathy and strategic planning. Subject: Sienna's promotion. Body: That's wonderful, honey. By the way, Kalin needs $3,000 for his new business venture. Subject: Kalin's opportunity. Body: 8 paragraphs about his vision, his potential, his sensitive artist soul. No mention that the opportunity was a pyramid scheme. My phone lit up. A text from an unknown number, but the message made the sender obvious. You're tearing this family apart. Mom's crying. Dad's furious. Hope you're happy, you soulless corporate drone. I screenshotted it. Added it to the documentation folder. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to Kalin's name. My thumb hovered over the block button. Alistair Vance, my mentor, told me once that I operate like someone with no safety net. He meant it as an observation, not a criticism. At the time, I nodded and changed the subject because he was right and I didn't want to explain why. I pressed block. The confirmation screen appeared. You will no longer receive calls or messages from this contact. Delete contact? Yes. The action felt remarkably simple. 1 button press. 30 years of conditioning. Erased. My laptop screen had gone dark. When I tapped the trackpad, the spreadsheet reappeared. $437,000. I created a new document. Title it, Timeline of Financial Favoritism. Start typing. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every emergency that wasn't. Every startup that failed. Every promise that my turn would come later. Later never came. Outside my window, New York was all lit windows and distant sirens. The city looked clean from 18 floors up. Manageable. Like a spreadsheet where everything added up correctly. My phone buzzed. One more time. Piper again. I believe you. If you need me to confirm anything, I will. I saw it too. I texted back 4 words. Thank you. That matters. Then I returned to the timeline. There's work to do. Security called my direct line at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday almost a month later. I was 3 slides into a portfolio review when my phone vibrated across the conference table. Miss Edwards? There's a situation in the lobby. I excused myself, stepping into the hallway where December wind rattled the windows. What kind of situation? A family member. Says he needs to speak with you. He's getting loud. My stomach dropped. What's his name? Kalin Edwards. Should I call the police? Through the phone, I heard it. His voice echoing off marble 43 floors below. She owes me. That apartment should be mine. Give me 5 minutes, I told security. If he's still there, yes, call them. I returned to the conference room where Alistair was studying the skyline, seemingly unfazed. Everything all right? He asked. My brother is in the lobby making a scene. He didn't ask questions. Just closed his laptop. Go. Handle it. By the time I reached the lobby, Kalin was pacing near reception, his winter coat unbuttoned, his face blotchy. 3 security guards formed a loose perimeter. Sienna. He spotted me. Finally. Tell them to let me up. You need to leave. Not until we talk about what you did. His voice cracked. You destroyed Thanksgiving. Mom's been crying for weeks. I stayed near the elevators, keeping my distance. That's not my problem. $2.5 million. He spat the number like an accusation. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I stated a fact. You're selfish. You've always been selfish. Spit flew from his mouth. Several people had stopped walking, phones out. That money should have gone to the family. Security moved closer. The lead guard spoke quietly into his radio. You need to leave, I repeated, my voice even. Not until you apologize. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You're trespassing. You're creating a disturbance. Leave immediately or the police will be called. His face went purple. This is bullshit. She's a thief. She stole my inheritance. Security escorted him toward the doors. His shouts dissolved into incoherent rage. I forwarded the video to my personal email. Then I headed to HR. By 2 p.m., I was sitting across from Janet Reeves, our Director of Human Resources. My phone sat between us, the video already played twice. This is the third contact this week? Janet asked, her brow furrowed. Fourth. He called my assistant yesterday. We'll document everything. I'm recommending you speak with legal about a restraining order. Alistair was waiting in my office when I returned. Security briefed me. Your brother sounds unstable. He's desperate. My parents have been funding his life for 30 years. How much did they give him? The number still stunned me. Over $400,000. Alistair whistled low. Jesus. While I got a $300 laptop. He was quiet, then pulled out his phone. I'm calling your father. You don't have to. What's the number? My dad answered on the third ring. I heard his voice, tinny through the speaker. Mr. Edwards, this is Alistair Vance, managing partner at Whitmore Capital. I'm calling regarding your son's behavior at our offices this morning. What happened? He created a scene in our lobby. Security had to remove him. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. It's harassment. If he contacts this office again, we'll pursue legal action. Alistair's voice was steel. Your daughter is brilliant. Your son is not her responsibility. Do not contact this office again. He ended the call before my dad could respond. Thank you, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. Don't thank me. That needed to be said. That evening, a calendar invite appeared. Family Zoom call tomorrow. 7 p.m. Family discussion. In the subject line. I knew what this was. An ambush. Piper texted 5 minutes later. Did you get the Zoom invite? This feels like a setup. It is, I typed back. But I'm going in anyway. You sure? I have the receipts. The next evening, I joined the call from my dining room, the New York skyline glowing behind me. The gallery view filled with faces, aunts, uncles, cousins. My mom and dad, front and center. And Kalin, positioned in his Lincoln Park apartment that my parents pay rent for. Thanks for joining, Sienna, my dad began. We thought it was time to clear the air. Kalin leaned toward his camera, prepared, notes visible on his desk. He launched into a speech about family betrayal, about how my success came at his expense. She's made herself rich while I struggle, he said, his voice breaking on cue. She's turned into this cold corporate robot. My mom dabbed at her eyes. My dad nodded along. When Kalin finished, my dad spoke. Sienna, do you have anything to say? I leaned back. Let's talk about money. Kalin's eyes narrowed. You got a BMW 3 Series for your 18th birthday. I got a $300 laptop. You got $8,000 wired to Barcelona. You've been given over $400,000 in the last 12 years. That's a lie. My mom's voice was shrill. How dare you make up these numbers? I have bank statements. You're ungrateful, my dad said. Kalin leaned forward, emboldened. See? She's crazy. She's making this up. The grid of faces showed confusion. Shock. Some nodded along with my parents. I realized it then. They would never admit it. Not willingly. Not publicly. The narrative they'd constructed was too important. Good parents don't show blatant favoritism. Good parents don't drain retirement funds for one child while giving the other nothing. So they'll deny it forever. I see, I said quietly. This conversation is over. I closed my laptop mid-protest, cutting off my dad's demands, my mom's tears. My phone lit up with texts, most from relatives asking what happened. A few from cousins who witnessed the disparity. And one from a number I hadn't seen in 3 years. Liam Kincaid. Heard about the family drama. Proud of you. I stared at his message, remembering his voice during our last fight senior year at DePaul. They're vampires, Sienna. Choose yourself. I chose them. I chose dysfunction over healthy love. He saw what I couldn't. I typed back, thanks. Should have listened to you. His response was immediate. You're listening now. That's what matters. The next morning, 3 things happened. Janet emailed me a harassment documentation packet. Alistair delivered a security system for my Tribeca condo to my desk. And Piper called. 3 aunts texted me after Zoom, she said. They admitted they saw favoritism. They just never said anything. Why not? Because speaking up meant becoming a target. I'm the target now. Yeah, but you can handle it. They can't. By Friday, my assistant had implemented a protocol. All family calls went to voicemail. All emails filtered. My parents couldn't reach me directly. It felt like breathing for the first time in 29 years. Saturday morning, I was reviewing purchase agreements when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A text message. Just a photo. Kalin at JFK Airport, boarding pass visible. One-way ticket to New York. Then a second message. Coming to get what's mine. I screenshotted both and forwarded them to Janet and my attorney. Then I texted back, see you in court. Because I was spending Christmas in Tribeca. In my apartment with the Hudson River view, I wasn't hiding anymore. The doorman at 47 Light Street had Kalin's photo taped inside his security binder. Frank, 62, former NYPD, took his job seriously. When I handed him the restraining order paperwork 3 days ago, he studied Kalin's face like he was memorizing a wanted poster. He shows up, Frank said, tapping the photo. I handle it. Christmas Eve arrived, cold and clear. My Tribeca apartment smelled like pine from the small tree Piper helped me pick out last week. No ornaments. Just white lights and the view of the Hudson turning silver in the afternoon sun. My phone buzzed at 7:47 p.m. Building security. Miss Edwards, we have a situation in the lobby. I was already pulling up the security camera feed on my laptop before Frank finished his sentence. There he was. Kalin, wearing the same North Face jacket from Thanksgiving, pacing in front of the marble reception desk. His mouth was moving fast. Frank stood between him and the elevators, arms crossed. I'm watching the feed now, I told Frank. Don't let him pass the desk. Not a chance. I screenshotted the timestamp, 7:47 p.m. Document everything. That's what the lawyer said. Kalin's voice rose, loud enough that I could hear it through the phone. She's my sister. You can't keep me from seeing my own sister on Christmas Eve. Frank's response was too quiet to catch, but I saw him gesture toward the door. The universal sign for leave. Kalin didn't leave. He pulled out his phone, probably calling my number that had been blocked since December 3rd. When that didn't work, he turned to the windows facing the street. Started shouting. Sienna, I know you're up there. Stop hiding. I ended the call with Frank and dialed 911. My voice stayed level when the operator answered. I need to report a violation of a restraining order at 47 Light Street, Tribeca. The subject is currently in the building lobby refusing to leave. Anyone outside? Someone was recording. I could see the phone cameras raised through the lobby windows, capturing Kalin's meltdown in high definition. He was gesturing wildly now, pointing up at my building like he was giving a tour of his inheritance. She stole it. His voice carried up through 17 floors of luxury condos. That apartment should be mine. She's stealing my inheritance. There was no inheritance. Our grandmother's trust went to charity. But facts had never mattered to Kalin. 2 NYPD officers arrived in 11 minutes. I timed it. Frank met them at the door, showed them the restraining order copy, and pointed to Kalin. The whole interaction took 90 seconds before they were escorting my brother away from the building, his voice still echoing off the surrounding buildings about theft and betrayal and family loyalty. By 9 p.m., the video was on Twitter. Entitled, Man-Child Melts Down at Luxury Building. 40,000 views. By midnight, 200,000. Someone had added subtitles. Another person made it a TikTok with a crying filter. Kalin's face, purple with rage, became a meme. I forwarded everything to my attorney. Every view. Every share. Every comment calling him pathetic. Documentation. My mom called at 6:47 a.m. on Christmas morning. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:03. At 7:15, my dad tried. At 8:30, I listened to the messages. Sienna, this has gone too far. My mom's voice shook. Your brother is devastated. He just wanted to talk to you. On Christmas. You've made him a laughingstock. My dad's message was shorter. We're flying to New York. We need to settle this as a family. I texted my lawyer. Parents incoming. Office ambush likely. Her response arrived in 30 seconds. Will notify building security. HR standing by. They showed up at my office on the Tuesday after Christmas. I was expecting them. So was building security, HR, and the corporate attorney Alistair had arranged at 8 a.m. that morning. My dad and mom walked into the glass conference room like they owned it. My mother was wearing her cream Talbot suit, the one she saves for parent-teacher conferences and church. My dad was in his insurance broker blazer, the one with the slight shine on the elbows. They didn't expect the witnesses. Jennifer from HR sat to my left. Marcus, the corporate attorney, sat to my right. Building security waited outside the glass walls, visible and ready. What is this? My mom's composure cracked immediately. We came to talk to our daughter. You came to harass an employee at her workplace, Marcus said. His voice could cut steel. Miss Edwards has agreed to this meeting with counsel present. I set my phone on the table, recording light visible. Legal in New York with notice, which Marcus just provided. Sienna, please. My dad tried his reasonable father's voice. We just want to understand. Why are you doing this to Kalin? Tell me about the investment strategy, I said, my voice as calm as if discussing market trends. For $100,000 over 12 years. Walk me through the logic. My mom's eyes darted to my dad. He shifted in his chair. We invested in Kalin because he needed help, my mom said finally. You were always so capable. You didn't need us. There it was. I tapped my phone screen, marking the timestamp. So, my capability disqualified me from equal treatment, I said. Not a question. My dad leaned forward. Your success was supposed to support the family. That's what families do. The strong ones help the struggling ones. Marcus wrote something down. Jennifer's face stayed neutral, but her fingers tightened around her pen. Can you repeat that? I asked my dad. For clarity. You were supposed to help your brother, my dad said, his voice rising. You make millions. He's struggling. Family means helping each other. I stopped the recording. Tapped it twice. The playback filled the conference room. Your success was supposed to support the family. My mom's face went white. My dad's mouth opened, then closed. That recording will be provided to our legal team, Marcus said, standing. This meeting is over. Any further contact with Miss Edwards will be considered harassment and will be met with immediate legal action. Security escorted them out. My mom was crying. My dad was arguing with the guard about rights and family and respect. The elevator doors closed on his protests. Jennifer touched my shoulder before she left. I have 3 brothers, she said quietly. I understand. Back in my office, the emails were already coming in. Piper had created a shared drive, family documentation. She'd titled it. Inside were folders, financial records, witness statements, social media evidence, Aunt Linda's contribution, photos from our 18th birthday, Kalin's lounge party with the ice sculpture, my Olive Garden dinner, for people around a table meant for 8, cousin Marcus, a video of Kalin's Barcelona stories, bragging about bottle service that cost $8,000 in one night. 3 more cousins submitted written statements. They all started the same way. I witnessed preferential treatment. Alistair emailed at noon. Corporate counsel is yours for as long as you need. Nobody threatens my directors. The investment firm posted a statement on LinkedIn that afternoon. We stand behind our managing director and her exemplary professional record. By week's end, Kalin's AI art gallery investors were demanding refunds. His Instagram rants about family betrayal got screenshotted by my legal team. His threats about family secrets were documented, timestamped, forwarded. My dad's insurance firm received an anonymous complaint about his son's public behavior. Nothing actionable, but enough to raise questions. My parents' retirement fund, already depleted from Kalin's ventures, hit 0. Reality arrived in the form of a Lake Forest mortgage payment they couldn't cover. On New Year's Eve, the extended family group chat exploded. Someone leaked the $437,000 figure. Aunt Patricia demanded an explanation. Uncle Robert wanted to know if his mother's estate was accessed. The grandmother's estate attorney scheduled an emergency review. The family Christmas dinner, already postponed from the 25th, got canceled entirely. Due to conflict, my mom's email said. Nobody responded. I spent New Year's in my apartment, 17 floors above the city. Piper was here. Alistair and his wife brought champagne. Jennifer from HR stopped by with her partner. My chosen family, assembled by choice rather than blood. At midnight, the fireworks over the Hudson painted my windows gold and silver. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text preview showed, "You destroyed everything." I deleted it without reading the rest. Poured another glass of champagne. Toasted to the family I built myself. Outside, the city celebrated. Inside, I was finally free. The lawsuit arrived by courier at my Tribeca building on a Tuesday morning in February. The doorman handed me the manila envelope with an apologetic expression, as if he knew what was inside would ruin my coffee. Kalin Edwards versus Sienna Edwards. Infliction of emotional distress. Demand, $500,000. I read the complaint standing in my marble lobby, still wearing my running shoes, my breath fogging the floor-to-ceiling windows that faced the Hudson. The language was breathtaking in its delusion. I sabotaged his creative potential. I systematically undermined his confidence. I manipulated family resources to ensure his failure. My phone buzzed. Alistair's name lit up the screen. "You've seen it," he said when I answered. Reading it now. It's garbage. Frivolous doesn't begin to cover it. His voice carried the controlled fury of a man who had spent 40 years watching entitled people abuse the legal system. They found some contingency ambulance chaser who thinks he can squeeze a settlement out of you. I flipped to page 4. There it was. The claim about grandfather's trust. They were saying I influenced the estate distribution, that I manipulated a dying man to cut Kalin out of inheritance he was supposedly owed. My grandfather left me $50,000 for graduate school. He left Kalin nothing because Kalin never visited him, not once during the 18 months he spent in hospice care. They want forensic accounting, I told Alistair. Full disclosure of all my assets. Of course they do. It's a fishing expedition. Papers rustled on his end. They're also threatening to go public with unspecified family secrets unless you settle for $250,000. I walked to my window. A ferry crossed the river below, small and determined against the current. Let them go public, I said. 3 weeks later, discovery began. My legal team was led by Patricia Morrison, a litigator who made her name destroying fraudulent personal injury claims. She had silver hair cut sharp as a blade and eyes that could calculate your net worth from across a courtroom. This will get ugly, she warned me during our first meeting in her Midtown office. They've listed your parents as character witnesses. They're claiming a pattern of emotional abuse dating back to childhood. Good, I said, sliding a thumb drive across her conference table. Because I have documentation dating back just as far. She plugged it into her laptop. Her expression didn't change as she scrolled through the files, but her fingers paused on the mouse for just a moment when she reached the spreadsheet. Not including the $4,000 I spent on his DUI lawyer when he wrapped my Honda Civic around a telephone pole sophomore year. Patricia looked up. You paid for that? With my summer savings. I was supposed to buy a used car for my junior year. Took the bus instead. She made a note. We'll need bank statements proving the transfers. I have 10 years of statements. Every birthday check they wrote him. Every emergency wire. Every failed business they funded. I met her eyes. And I have the text messages where my mother admitted they did it because I didn't need help. Discovery revealed things even I didn't know. The deposition transcripts arrived in March. Thick binders that Patricia walked me through in her office, while sleet battered the windows. Warren's testimony, page 47, we viewed Sienna as our retirement plan. She was always going to be successful. Kalin needed more support. Blythe's testimony, page 62, the birthday parties were different because Kalin is more social. He needed those experiences. Sienna preferred quiet celebrations. The lies were so smooth they'd almost convinced themselves. But then there's page 93, where Patricia asked my mom about the BMW versus the laptop. Well, yes, there was a disparity. But Sienna never complained. Did you ask if she minded? Long pause. Recorded by the court reporter as lasting 14 seconds. No. Kalin's deposition was a masterpiece of unforced error. Patricia barely had to push. He unraveled like a sweater with one thread pulled. Name one business venture that generated revenue, she asked. The art gallery concept was solid. The market just wasn't ready. Did you lease gallery space? I was in the planning phase. For how long? 8 months. What did you do during those 8 months? Market research. Competitive analysis. Can you provide documentation of this research? Silence. Then it was mostly conceptual. Patricia had printed out his social media posts, laid them in a neat timeline across the conference table. December tweets calling me a corporate sociopath. January Instagram rants about family betrayal. The February post compared me to Scrooge, somehow managing to get both the Dickens reference and the basic plot wrong. Did you write these? Patricia asked. I was emotional. She just humiliated us at Thanksgiving. By purchasing real estate with her own money? His lawyer objected. But the damage was done. Every word was a court record now, permanent as concrete. The trial date was set for late March. Manhattan Supreme Court. A building that smelled like old wood and older grudges. The courtroom had mahogany panels and marble floors. Columns that rose toward vaulted ceilings. Windows that let in sharp spring light. I wore charcoal gray. Kalin wore a suit that didn't fit right, the jacket pulling across his shoulders, the pants puddling over shoes he clearly borrowed. Patricia's opening statement was surgical. She projected the PowerPoint onto the courtroom screen. The same financial data I compiled in that Chicago hotel room, now presented as Exhibit A through M. Every transfer documented. Every disparity quantified. The BMW versus laptop photo became evidence. Patricia had it blown up poster size. The judge studied it for a long moment, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. 18 years old, Patricia said. Same parents. Same birthday. 3 weeks apart. $30,000 car versus $300 laptop. My dad sat in the gallery behind Kalin, his face the color of an old newspaper. My mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, but the judge didn't look at her. He was reading the bank statements now, following the trail of money with one finger. Our forensic accountant testified on day 2. Richard Brennan. 30 years of experience. A man who once traced mob money through 14 shell corporations. He walked the court through every transfer, his voice steady and bored, like he was reading a grocery list. Between ages 18 and 30, the defendant's brother received approximately $437,000 from their parents. The plaintiff received in that same period approximately $8,000, primarily in the form of small holiday gifts. Kalin's lawyer objected. Relevance, Your Honor. This case is about emotional distress, not family finances. The finances establish the pattern of favoritism, Patricia countered, which directly relates to the defendant's claim that my client sabotaged him. The judge nodded. Overruled. Continue, Mr. Brennan. Alastair testified on day 3. He wore the same expression he uses in board meetings when someone presents a bad quarterly report. Disappointed, but unsurprised. In 10 years of working with Miss Edwards, I have never witnessed unethical behavior. She is meticulous, honest, and arguably the most talented analyst I've supervised. Kalin's lawyer tried to rattle him. Isn't it true you have a personal relationship with the plaintiff? I'm her mentor. Yes. Doesn't that bias your testimony? Alastair removed his glasses, polished them with a handkerchief. I've mentored 47 analysts in my career. 3 have made managing director before age 30. Sienna is one of them. That's not biased. That's pattern recognition. Piper testified. Liam sent a written statement from California describing the family dynamics he witnessed in college. 3 of my colleagues provided character references. The video compilation played on day 4. Kalin's Christmas Eve meltdown outside my building. His screaming about inheritance and theft. The NYPD officers trying to calm him down. Then clips from his social media. The rants and accusations. His claim that I stole his destiny. The judge watched without expression. When it ended, he made a note on his pad. Kalin took the stand on day 5. Patricia approached him the way you'd approach a snake that's already bitten someone. Mr. Edwards, can you name one business venture that succeeded? They would have succeeded with proper funding. That's not what I asked. Name one that succeeded, generated profit, paid its own expenses. His jaw worked. The market conditions weren't favorable. For 12 years, not one favorable market condition? You don't understand creative industries. Patricia picked up a document. I have your student loan history here. You attended DePaul University for 6 years, changing majors 4 times, and left without a degree. Your parents paid $118,000 in tuition. Is that correct? I was finding myself. And did you? Find yourself? The courtroom was silent except for someone's phone buzzing in the gallery. The judge glanced toward the sound, annoyed. I'm an artist, Kalin finally said. Show me the art. He had nothing. No portfolio, no exhibitions, no sales. Just concepts and plans and dreams funded by people who should have known better. The judge's ruling came down the next morning. I was back in my office when Patricia called. Dismissed with prejudice, she said. He can't refile. Ever. And? The judge awarded you $100,000 in legal fees, plus costs. Kalin's personally liable for the full amount. I closed my office door, leaned against it. Through the window, I could see the Hudson, gray and rolling under clouds. There's more, Patricia continued. The judge included a statement in his ruling. I'm reading it now. This court finds the plaintiff's claims to be not merely without merit, but a transparent attempt to extort funds from a family member whose only crime was succeeding through legitimate effort while the plaintiff failed through lack of same. My phone buzzed. A text from Piper. Did you hear? They're selling the house. Another text. This one from a number I didn't recognize. This is Warren. We need to talk about payment arrangements. I deleted it without responding. The scholarship fund was established by May. The Sienna Edwards Scholarship for first-generation students at University of Illinois. Full tuition for years, renewable based on academic performance. The first recipient was a girl from rural Illinois whose parents were factory workers. Her thank you letter arrived at my office in June. You gave me a chance, she wrote, to be the first. I framed it, hung it where the family photo used to be. My Tribeca penthouse smelled like expensive wine and possibility. 6 months since Thanksgiving, and I'd stopped flinching when the doorbell rings. Alistair raised his glass across my dining table, candlelight catching the crystal. To Sienna's newest fund launch. 10 million under management, and she makes it look easy. It's not easy, I said, but I was smiling. The original Basquiat behind him cost more than my parents' Lake Forest house sold for. I chose it specifically for that wall, the one where family photos might have hung in someone else's home. Piper reached over and squeezed my hand. Around us, 8 people laughed and talked, passing dishes, refilling glasses. My chosen family. A senior partner from the firm. 2 women from my building who became friends over morning coffee. Alistair's wife, a college roommate who flew in from Seattle. None of them needed anything from me except my company. The doorbell rang. I didn't tense. My doorman knew the protocols. More champagne? I asked, already standing. When I returned with 2 bottles, Piper was looking out at the Hudson, the lights of New Jersey flickering across dark water. Do you think you'll ever do Thanksgiving with the family again? The question didn't hurt the way it might have 6 months ago. Family isn't blood, I told her, gesturing at the table. It's who shows up for you. She nodded slowly. We were in the same time frame, late November, but everything felt different. Last year I was bracing for impact. This year I was grateful for the explosion that freed me. My journal sat on the bedroom nightstand. Last night's entry was simple. Their emergency is not my responsibility. My therapist helped me write that sentence. We'd been working through it monthly, processing decades of manipulation, understanding that my parents created Kalin's entitlement with every birthday disparity, every wired emergency fund, every excuse. The guilt is gone. Not buried, not managed. Actually gone. Senior Managing Director. Alistair announced to the table because he loves this part. Youngest in the firm's history. Stop, I said, but I was laughing. My phone buzzed. A text from Liam. Heard about the promotion. Always knew you'd choose yourself eventually. Proud of you. I typed back quickly. Thank you. For everything. His response was immediate. You did this. Not me. But he saw it first. And saw what I couldn't. That's worth acknowledging. The dinner conversation shifted to someone's terrible contractor, then to summer travel plans. Normal problems. Solvable problems. Nobody needed me to rescue them from the consequences they created. Later, after everyone left, Piper helped me clear plates. I meant to tell you, she said. That young woman you've been mentoring? She finally set boundaries with her mother. My mentee. 26. Brilliant. Drowning in family obligation. I told her my story at a women's leadership conference in March. Showed her the spreadsheet. Explained how documentation became freedom. Good for her, I said. And meant it. The UIUC Scholarship Fund was supporting 5 students now. The legal settlement from Kalin bought them futures he never bothered to build for himself. My legacy wasn't the money I made. It's the pattern I broke. My laptop showed an unread email notification. My dad's name in the sender field. I didn't open it. I dragged it directly to the trash, then emptied the folder. A birthday card arrived yesterday with a Lake Forest postmark. My mom's handwriting on the envelope. I gave it back to the doorman. Marked return to sender. Last week someone tried to bring DoorDash breakfast to my building. The order name was Kalin. My doorman, a magnificent man, refused the delivery. Their narrative is no longer my concern. I poured myself the last of the champagne and walked to the terrace. Manhattan spread below me. 8 million people living their complicated lives. The November air was cold, but I didn't go inside. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The preview showed enough. You destroyed us. I didn't read the full message. My thumb hovered over it for less than a second before I deleted it. The truth settled in my chest. Warm and final. I didn't destroy them. I stopped enabling their destruction of me. I raised my glass to the skyline. To the life I built brick by brick while they expected me to crumble. To the family we choose. I said to the night. The champagne tasted like freedom.